this is a part of these biblical stories of angels and devils, and that's what they're really talking about. They're talking about these interdimensional beings and the darkest theory.
These prophecies speak of this messianic figure riding upon the clouds of heaven.
Many of the old stories, just stylized echoes of something bigger. On Joe Rogan's latest podcast, things got weird fast when a cutting-edge AI cracked open the Book of Enoch.
That AI has the ability to translate some of these ancient languages, which is really interesting.
Not just reading it, but pulling out secrets that have supposedly been buried for centuries. Suddenly, everything from angels and demons to the roots of humanity isn't what it seemed. Now, mystics are buzzing, skeptics are sweating, and the internet's losing its mind. Is this a breakthrough in decoding ancient truth, or just high-tech smoke and mirrors? Either way, it's not your average history lesson. Join us as we unveil the unthinkable, the lost prophecies of Enoch. Since its first appearance, the Book of Enoch has sat at the edge of both history and legend, drawing in scholars and faith seekers with its out-of-the-ordinary stories. Unlike the familiar tale of Adam and Eve, this text says that sin didn't start in a garden, but on the wings of fallen angels. It describes prayers offered up to Enoch himself, almost as if he'd become an intermediary between heaven and earth. That alone has fired up debates. Was Enoch a bridge to divine secrets, or just a legendary placeholder for ideas people weren't ready to face? These discussions picked up steam again in recent years. A quick scroll through YouTube turns up dozens of videos, some with more than 10 million views, where hosts break down every chapter as if it were the next blockbuster thriller. Even Hollywood got inspired. Darren Aronofsky's 2014 film Noah pulls in echoes of these ancient scenes. Watching rain fall on the ark feels a little different once it's known that its backstory may have come, in part, from Enoch's cosmic vision. It helps to know where the Book of Enoch came from. Written between about 100 BC and AD 300, it's called an Enochian work because it carries his name. Enoch, the great-great-great-great-grandson of Adam and the great-grandfather of Noah. Genesis says he walked with God, and the Chronicles nod to those family ties. But the real writers of the book remain hidden. They attached Enoch's name to their work to make it feel more authoritative. Back then, it wasn't unusual. Dozens of pseudepigraphic texts were floating around, all claiming to come from famous figures of the past. What makes the Book of Enoch special is its blend of cosmic drama and moral warning. It introduces the Watchers, angels who were meant to look after the world, but instead fell in love with human women. From their union sprang giants called Nephilim.
The sons of God came into the daughters of men. They created a hybrid offspring who were called the Nephilim, or the fallen ones.
And with them came a flood of violence and bloodshed. Enoch's mission, the text says, was to plead for mercy on behalf of both the angelic rebels and humankind. Few other writings mix angel lore with apocalyptic prophecy so vividly. That ancient flavor is part of why AI got involved. Modern technology can spot patterns no human eye would catch, a hidden code in the way certain words repeat, a numerical link between passages separated by decades of copying and translation. Early results hint at extra layers in the text, prophecies that may point to events long after the original scribes put pen to parchment. Some lines read like warnings about environmental collapse. Others sound like nods to astronomical cycles that only recently have been understood by science. Imagine going back to a scroll tucked away in a library basement, feeding it through an AI model trained on thousands of other ancient works, then watching as the machine highlights phrases that align with modern concerns, climate shifts, population surges, even the rise of new belief systems. Suddenly, the Book of Enoch doesn't feel so out of reach. Its stories connect past and present in ways that are hard to ignore. To understand why this ancient text continues to spark such intense analysis by both scholars and algorithms, it helps to look at how the Book of Enoch is structured. The 5 parts of the Book of Enoch. The Book of Enoch, also known as First Enoch, is divided into 5 parts. The Book of the Watchers, which runs from chapter 1 to 36, drops readers into a dramatic tale of angels who leave their heavenly posts and marry human women. Their children, the Nephilim, grow into giants whose deeds unleash violence across the earth. Enoch, described as a man who walked with God, is picked to carry messages between these fallen angels called the Watchers and the divine court. They beg for mercy, but their plea is denied. Bound and thrown into a dark abyss, the Watchers become a warning that even beings of light can fall when they stray from their purpose. The Book of Parables, running from chapter 37 to 71, shifts the mood from courtroom drama to sweeping prophecy. 3 vivid stories introduce the Son of Man, a mysterious heavenly judge. In these parables, the wicked face a great reckoning, while the righteous look forward to a kingdom built on fairness. It reads like a teaser for a cosmic epic. Visions of throne rooms above the clouds, angels proclaiming judgment, and the promise that every wrong will one day be made right. The Book of the Heavenly Luminaries, covering chapters 72 to 82, feels like a guided tour of the night sky. Detailed passages trace the sun's daily journey, the moon's phases, and the changing seasons. A solar calendar of 365 days is set against the lunar months used by many ancient peoples, suggesting that the cosmos follows its own divine schedule. Rather than dry notes, each orbit and eclipse gets tied to a higher plan, seasons marking spiritual shifts, and celestial turns offering hidden signs to attentive readers. The Book of Dream Visions, from chapters 83 to 90, dives into allegory, presenting 2 powerful nighttime visions. The first vision retells the Great Flood in graphic detail, with water crashing over the earth and divine commands carrying survivors through the deluge. The second vision turns history into a grand animal allegory. Sheep, wolves, leopards, and other beasts stand in for ancient nations, leaders, and major events in Israel's story. From Adam's earliest days through exile and conquest, each creature encounter reveals a chapter in humanity's journey, closing with the same hope for a just kingdom introduced earlier. The Epistle of Enoch, which runs from chapter 91 to 108, wraps up the collection like a letter of wisdom from an elder to later generations. It lays out simple but powerful rules: live with integrity, show mercy, and walk humbly. The tone blends encouragement for the faithful with warnings for the proud. Toward the end, it returns to apocalyptic scenes, angelic armies, final battles, and the vision of a renewed earth where peace finally takes hold. Together, these 5 parts turn the Book of Enoch into a rich blend of drama, prophecy, celestial science, symbolic history, and moral teaching. Today, cutting-edge AI tools are uncovering hidden patterns, links between repeated words or numerical codes that hint at fresh meanings. The Hidden Prince. AI's deep dive into chapter 18 of the Book of Enoch shines a new spotlight on a figure named Satanael, who steps forward as the head of the rebellious Watchers. In that later section, the text plainly calls him Prince of the Fallen Angels. Once that label appears, it's hard not to look back at chapter 7 and wonder if his presence was hiding there all along. A closer reading of chapter 7 reveals subtle hints of this Adamic tradition. The passage doesn't name Satanael outright, but it does say that the angels turned away with their prince. That very phrase, with their prince, mirrors the wording in chapter 18, where the Watchers turned aside from the Lord together with their prince, Satanael. Spotting the same words in both places suggests that the story of Satanael as leader was already woven into the earlier tale, even if only in outline. Why does this matter? In classic Adam stories, Satan is often called a prince or ruler of rebellious spirits. By echoing that same title in the Watcher's narrative, chapter 7 quietly ties the fallen angels to the broader myth of Satan's revolt. It's the moment where the Book of Enoch might be tipping its hand, saying, "This story comes from the same root as the tale of Satan's fall." Then there's that striking image of imprisoned angels bowing before Enoch. Chapter 7 describes these celestial captives in the second heaven dropping to their knees before the translated patriarch, begging him to pray for their forgiveness. That scene carries echoes of Adamic lore, where angels are tested on whether they will honor humanity. In some versions, Satan and his followers refuse to bow to the first human, a moment that cements their fall. Here, though, the jailed watchers do bow, admitting their guilt and hoping for mercy. To see how far that idea travels, it helps to jump forward to 3rd Enoch, also called Sefer Hekhalot, a later work that recasts Enoch himself as the archangel Metatron. In Chapter 4 of 1st Enoch, angelic leaders with names like Uzzah and Azza bow down to Metatron. Those names closely resemble the Watcher chiefs in 1st Enoch, weaving a clear line from the old Watcher's tale into newer Jewish mystic texts. Some scholars say this bowing motif is a late invention, borrowed from rabbinic stories about humans being honored. But others, like Gary Anderson, argue it runs deeper, all the way back to those early Adam tales where angels faced a test of loyalty. Evidence for early roots also pops up later in 2nd Enoch. In chapters 21 to 22, when Enoch reaches the edge of the 7th heaven, God invites him to stand forever in his presence. Then the deity tells the angels, "Let Enoch join and stand in front of my face forever." The angels comply, bowing down and declaring, "Let Enoch obey your word, O Lord." That moment mirrors the life of Adam and Eve, where Adam is raised and honored by angels, and where Satan once refused to bow. Michael Stone pointed out that the test phrasing in 2nd Enoch 22 verse 6, translated as "sounding them out" or "making a trial of them," highlights the idea that the angels' obedience is on trial. It's the same narrative order found in the earliest Adam stories. In other words, the Book of Enoch doesn't just borrow its Watcher's lore from random traditions. It appears to be in dialogue with the Adamic myth of rebellion and veneration. Chapter 7's prince and bowing angels might initially seem like isolated quirks, but when picked up alongside Chapter 18 and the Hekhalot materials, a pattern emerges. The story of Satan's fall, the test of angelic loyalty, and the elevation of a human figure into a divine court all come together in this Slavonic apocalypse. What does that tell us? For starters, it shows how fluid ancient storytelling could be. Writers freely mixed characters and themes, fallen angels, human heroes, cosmic trials, to shape new messages. By the time these tales landed in different languages and cultures, the lines between separate myths had blurred, creating the rich tapestry now known as Enochic literature. And now, with AI pinpointing these connections, the Book of Enoch can be seen in a fresh light. The machine doesn't get distracted by familiar names or the prestige of tradition. It lines up every phrase, every title, and every narrative beat to spot hidden overlaps. What once felt like a standalone legend of giant angels and secret visions is now firmly linked to the drama of Adam and Satan, the Watchers reimagined. One of the most fascinating twists on the Watchers' story is the idea that these figures weren't angels at all, but visitors from other worlds. Ancient alien theories suggest that advanced beings landed on Earth long ago and stepped in to guide early civilizations. According to this view, the Watchers in the Book of Enoch taught humanity skills like metalworking, star charts, and warfare, knowledge that seemed to spring up out of nowhere. In that light, these celestial teachers become cosmic engineers rather than spiritual guardians. Supporters of this theory point to the Nephilim, giant offspring born from unions between Watchers and humans, as proof of alien-human hybrids. Myths about half-human giants show up in cultures around the world, and enthusiasts believe these stories hide real encounters. If ancient scribes saw powerful visitors in gleaming crafts or wearing strange suits, it makes sense they'd call them angels and write their tales in holy books. The gaps between legend and archaeology feel easier to fill with alien technology than with simple human invention. Clues in the text itself can read like science fiction. References to shining lights moving through the sky, chariots of fire, and secret passages have been reimagined as UFO sightings and hidden landing sites. A passage describing a bright vehicle descending through clouds looks a lot like a modern spaceship in flight. When stories say watchers brought fire to Earth or showed humans how to mix metals, it sounds no different from a pilot teaching a young culture to operate advanced tools. Critics push back, saying ancient alien ideas downplay real human skill and creativity. They point out impressive feats, pyramids, megaliths, precisely cut stones that can be explained by trial, error, and centuries of hands-on work. To them, brushing off that effort as the work of extraterrestrials feels like an insult to early engineers and architects. Instead of aliens, they see myth-making cultures weaving lessons into stories, using angels and giants to teach about pride, power, and the dangers of forbidden knowledge. Despite the debate, ancient alien theories remain wildly popular. TV shows dramatize encounters between Enoch's watchers and humans, while best-selling books mix biblical quotes with UFO sighting reports. Online forums buzz with people comparing star maps from Enoch to satellite images and debating which mountains might have served as landing pads. This blend of religion, history, and science fiction creates a rich playground for anyone curious about who really walked the earth in ancient days. Many believers in this idea argue that Earth's first texts weren't written by distant scribes, but by people struggling to describe the impossible. A star map might have looked like a coded message from above, and a glowing aircraft could seem divine without the right vocabulary to explain it. Language limits what early writers could share, so they wrapped their memories in the ideas they knew, angels, giants, and hidden realms, before passing their tales down through generations. Other readers take a middle ground, enjoying the excitement of ancient aliens without insisting every line of Enoch points to little green men. They see the Watchers as mythic symbols of outside influence, whether divine or extraterrestrial, and appreciate how these stories speak to humanity's ongoing search for meaning. If these tales inspire wonder, ignite debates, and get people looking up at the night sky, they've already served a purpose, no matter their ultimate source. Justice from above. The Book of Parables moves from stories about fallen angels to tales that shine a light on who counts as wicked and who stands as righteous. 3 long parables take center stage, each one painting its own picture of justice. In these tales, the Messiah figure steps into view as the ultimate judge. Terms like Mashiach, Chosen One, Servant, and Son of Man appear again and again, showing how deeply the idea of an anointed judge ran through Jewish thought long before the New Testament. Each parable tackles the same basic questions in different ways. Who will face punishment? Who will earn a reward? The wicked are those who ignore God's commands, mistreat others, and break Torah law. The righteous are those who stay faithful, live by every rule, and treat every person with respect. Action scenes might shift from courtroom-like declarations in heaven to images of cosmic battles, but every story circles back to one core message: justice will come one way or another. What makes these chapters stand out is the clear spotlight on the Son of Man. Enoch shows this figure acting on God's behalf, calling out wrongs and lifting up the good. One key passage even says that God named this Son of Man before the world began. That line suggests this judge is more than a human hero. Pre-existence hints at divine status. For readers familiar with Daniel 7, that connection jumps off the page. Daniel's vision of one like a son of man on a heavenly throne echoes straight into Enoch and later ripples through Revelation in the New Testament. Alongside judgment, the parables peek into heavenly books, records of every soul, every deed. This book of life idea ties into Eden's lost paradise, reminding readers that nothing gets hidden forever. It's an early hint that calendars, scrolls, and divine registers keep track of human stories, both good and bad. Edenic scenes also pop up, planting the hope that someday a return to Eden could follow the great judgment day, when everything wrong gets wiped away. For anyone interested in how New Testament writers pulled from older traditions, these chapters feel like a treasure chest. Passages once dismissed as later Christian inventions show up here 2 centuries earlier. When critics claim the New Testament made up titles like Son of Man or ideas like pre-creation naming, Enoch serves as a clear counterpoint. These themes were already in circulation. That doesn't prove every link is direct, but it does push back against the idea that the New Testament sprang from thin air. Still, there's a key difference. In Enoch's parables, the wicked aren't condemned for refusing a cross they've never heard of. There's no lake of fire waiting because someone rejected Jesus. Judgment falls simply because people broke the law and hurt others. Mercy extends to Gentiles too, but there's no mention of atoning sacrifice. That part waits for later revelation. Here, the focus remains squarely on justice meted out by the pre-existent judge, on faithful hearts, and on books that don't lie. Reading these chapters today, it's easy to feel a spark of recognition. Fantasy and sci-fi fans might nod at cosmic courtroom drama. History buffs might spot echoes of Daniel and Revelation. Anyone curious about early Jewish ideas of Messiah, judgment, and divine records will find these pages alive with fresh energy. Now it's time for today's subscriber pick. I just decoded the Book of Enoch and reveals unexpected message. Read the title flashing across live stream feeds. The guest, Dr. Eliana Mendez, sat calmly, her voice steady as she explained what the AI had uncovered. This wasn't a simple translation, she said. The machine found repeating sequences hidden in the text, frequencies that correspond to specific star positions and energy waves we only recently discovered. The audience was silent. According to the AI, the Book of Enoch wasn't just an apocalyptic vision. It was a multi-layered message encoded for an age of machines. Within its verses lay a countdown, one ending precisely 30 days from the broadcast, on a night when a rare celestial alignment would occur. The message it decoded ends with one line, Eliana continued. When the firmament hums, they return. Speculation erupted. Theories ranged from interdimensional beings to ancient astronauts. Critics dismissed it, of course, until day 30. That night, the sky shimmered unnaturally. A low vibration rolled through the earth like a sigh from something ancient. Lights flickered, animals fled, and in places where no stars should be, eyes opened. The broadcast cut off mid-sentence, but the message had already been heard. The veil had thinned. Enoch and the Luminaries. After witnessing the Son of Man and the Head of Days, Enoch is led deeper into the skies, where the great luminaries wheel through their courses. Archangel Uriel, whose name means Light of God, becomes the guide for this part of the journey, revealing every law and regulation that governs the sun, moon, and stars. What unfolds is nothing less than a tour of heaven's clockwork, where time itself is measured by celestial wheels turning in perfect order. First comes the sun, called Orjares, and also known as Thomas. Enoch sees it rise each morning through 6 eastern doors of heaven and set each evening through 6 western doors. These aren't simple doorways, but massive gates studded with windows to the right and left. Through these windows, the sun travels, climbing high and dipping low, always keeping to its appointed path. On some days, its journey grows long, and the daylight stretches out, while the night retreats. On other days, the opposite happens, shorter days and longer nights, all according to the sun's regular route. Enoch learns that the sun's chariot is driven by the wind, a flame with a brightness 7 times stronger than the moon's. It never slows or rests, racing through the sky so steadily that its light seems endless. With every turn behind those 6 gates, the sun completes its course, bringing warmth and life to the world below. Its twin names, Orjares and Thomas, remind readers that this great orb holds both power and mystery, a living flame crossing the horizon without fail. Next, attention shifts to the moon, smaller but no less important. Known by 4 names, Asanya, Ebla, Benese, and Ere, she travels her path in a chariot of wind, just like the sun. Her course winds through the same doors, but in a cycle that changes each month. Uriel points out how the moon's light is only a fraction of the sun's, 1/7 when full, but still enough to brighten the night. When young, her glow grows bit by bit until the 14th day, when she stands opposite the sun, ablaze and full. That 14th night, dubbed the full moon, marks the peak of her cycle. After that, she wanes, losing light until her sphere is empty and darkness reigns. Then the cycle begins again. Some months see shifts in her rising and setting times, and sometimes the moon behaves in ways all her own, taking a slightly different path through heaven's doors. Every change follows the rules Uriel lays out, and every rule ties back to a divine order written into the stars. One of the most fascinating lessons comes when Uriel shows Enoch how the sun transfers light to the moon. It happens on the sun's western side, where beams cross over to the moon's chariot. As new light pours in, the moon fills phase by phase until she shines at her full. Then, as sunlight slips away, she dims. This simple transfer explains why nights wax and wane, and how ancient people could mark months by watching the moon's shape. Enoch also notes that stars follow the sun and moon through the same doors, each in its own time and place. Their courses weave together, creating a cosmic dance that sets the rhythm for seasons on Earth. Summer days lengthen as the sun's path climbs higher. Winter nights stretch long when it dips below the horizon. The moon's pull on tides and her shifting glow light up the darkness and guide night watchers. Through all of this, Enoch sees a universe built on precision. Every beam of light, every gate and window, every name and number serve a purpose. The lessons in these chapters turn astronomy into more than a study of distant lights. They become a map of divine order. In Uriel's guiding presence, Enoch grasps how the heavens themselves carry messages, that time, movement, and light follow laws beyond human making. And in that, ancient readers find both wonder and a reminder that, in the grand design, nothing moves by accident. Why Enoch was set aside. Questions about who really wrote the Book of Enoch and when it first took shape weighed heavily against its acceptance. Church fathers and Jewish rabbis compared its language and themes with older scriptures and saw a mix of history, myth, and legend woven together. Tales of angels marrying humans, giants roaming the earth, and secret heavenly journeys felt too fanciful to serve as solid ground for doctrine. Over time, religious leaders settled on a tighter list of books, ones they felt linked directly back to eyewitnesses of God's work among Israel. Anything outside that circle grew suspect, no matter how intriguing the story. When Christianity began to spread, its early teachers faced the same question: which writings really carried the authority of the apostles? Even though parts of Enoch echoed ideas found in the New Testament, like the coming judgment and a pre-existent Son of Man, its background remained shadowy. Church councils felt the risk of confusing genuine inspiration with imaginative legend was too high. In the end, nearly every branch of Judaism and most Christian churches set Enoch aside. Only the Ethiopian Orthodox Church kept it in their version of the Old Testament, likely because early Ethiopian translators and bishops valued its grand vision of heaven, earth, and the final judgment. That doesn't mean Enoch vanished without a trace. In the Book of Jude, a short letter tucked into the New Testament canon, there's a clear quote from Enoch. "Behold, the Lord comes with 10,000s of his saints, to execute judgment on all, and to convict all the ungodly of their deeds." That line matches Enoch chapter 1 verse 9 almost word for word, but quoting a snippet didn't turn the whole book into scripture. Instead, it shows how writers of the New Testament sometimes pulled from popular Jewish writings of their day to make a point. Jude found a verse that fit his message about coming judgment, borrowed it, and moved on. Today, Christians can appreciate Enoch without treating it as on par with Genesis or Paul's letters. Reading the book offers a richer picture of how Jews in the Second Temple era thought about angels, cosmic battles, and the end times. Themes like the Son of Man's pre-existence, the idea of heavenly books keeping track of every life, and visions of God's fiery throne all crop up in Daniel, Ezekiel, and Revelation. When those books feel familiar, part of the reason is that Enoch helped spread those images long before the New Testament writers sat down to write. At the same time, some believers suggest that it's wise to be clear on what counts as reliable teaching. Bits of Enoch spin extravagant legends, giants learning metalwork, hidden heavens with layers of punishment, calendars set by angelic law that don't line up neatly with clear biblical commands. Those details read like religious sci-fi or mythic fantasy, not straightforward revelation. So the smartest approach is to let Enoch fill in background color while holding tight to the Bible's own canon for core doctrine. If a theme in Enoch echoes teaching in Scripture, it can deepen understanding. If it conflicts, it should be set aside. As a result, the Book of Enoch sits today in a curious spot. It's neither lost nor fully embraced. It survives in Ethiopia's church, fascinates Bible scholars, and sparks debates online. Some see it as proof of hidden secrets or divine mysteries too strange for standard theology. Others view it as a fascinating myth, a cultural artifact that shows how ancient peoples wrestled with questions of justice, divine power, and the fate of the world. For anyone curious about the space between the testaments, Enoch remains a lively guide. What do you think? If these ancient visions of angels, giants, and cosmic judges still resonate today, what might they be trying to tell us about our own place in the universe?